Okay, hello everybody. So as you know, I'm Gilda from the LA Co-op Lab, and what thought I would do, because you're all in different places, you have different interests. I don't know most of you. I thought what I would do is show you a short video. It's literally 2 minutes about what the LA Co-op Lab does and why we do it. It'll also introduce you to our Academy site. So you'll get a sense of what it looks like, what our online workshops are like. And then I will collect your questions and answer them in some kind of logical order. Does that work for you guys? Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, so what would be good? I can share my screen, right?
Yes, you should be able to. Let me just make sure. Yes.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. This is from our Academy site. I'm going to just play the video.
LA Co-op Lab is a collective that was established in 2015 to build capacity for worker ownership as a pathway toward a more equitable and democratic economy. Our aim is to advance worker ownership as one way to push back against inequality, gentrification, and the gig economy by helping people who are often excluded from good jobs to collectively create their own and meet community needs. We achieve this primarily through education, coaching, financing, and network building. We teach online classes and workshops to provide groups with the tools that they need to construct the building blocks of a worker cooperative. Worker co-ops are businesses that are democratically owned and controlled by the people who work there. Co-ops are also teams, and for this reason, most of our classes are best experienced as a team. Many of the exercises in our classes are designed to prepare co-ops for the kinds of questions that would help us as lenders better understand the workings of your co-op, its prospects for success, and how capital might best be used in service of livelihood. LA Co-op Lab is a founding member of Seed Commons, a financial cooperative that helps co-ops achieve sustainability with financing and other forms of support. We channel investment to communities that have historically been excluded from the benefits of the economy. We use non-extractive financing. This means that the repayment of loans comes only from an increase in revenues or profits stemming from our investment. Repayment will not be extracted from prior existing business assets, nor the personal assets of those who make up the enterprise. LA Co-op Lab offers free office hours to emerging worker co-ops in Los Angeles, as well as more in-depth coaching to groups that meet our criteria of radical inclusion. We work with startups as well as existing businesses seeking to convert to a worker co-op structure. Teams can come to us at any stage of their co-op's development, and we are always happy to welcome new faces into the LA Co-op community.
Okay, well, now you know everything about us. And let's see. That was the voice of Adriana Swain, who until a few weeks ago lived in the Eco Village for years and was on a member of our collective, and now she's on the board, even though she's moving to England. And so we like to keep talent close. So I'm just wondering if you have any questions. What is it that you would like to know about worker co-ops? I just told you about what a worker co-op is. It's a business that's owned by the people that work there, who democratically run them and share in the profits. I told you about why we do this. We're really trying to push back against inequality as it grows and grows and grows, not just in Los Angeles, but in the world. then I told you a bit about how we do it. A lot of it, we don't have a ton of cooperatives in Los Angeles. So a lot of our work started out doing a lot of education and training. And COVID actually, we at the end, it tells you that we have free office hours. So they tripled during COVID because the idea of more fair workplaces, more fair livelihoods really appealed to people more during COVID. People were looking for stuff. So like chefs who were laid off, they didn't want to go back to a toxic kitchen culture, which might be really adorable on reality TV, but in real life, it's not. There were comedians starting a co-op. There was every single strippers, every sector in Los Angeles. There were people, bakeries, people who do creative work and stuff like that. So yeah, they just tripled. It's a really great way for us to meet people, and then we go deep with folks who are in our target community. So pretty much anyone can go to our website. We have the free video-driven, question-driven course about it's called Discover Worker Co-ops. It's also in Spanish, Descubra las cooperativas, trabajadores. And then we have another course that has a cost attached to it. It's $50 that goes into depth about how to start a worker co-op. And we have a sliding scale for anyone who asks for it. So, okay. Now, do you have any questions? Oh, I see. In the, okay, so first of all, you can go to lacooplab.com and you'll find a link to our Calendly, so you can sign up for free office hours. And Angela's asking if the benefits of worker co-ops are more amplified the more worker co-ops there are, and why? That's a good question. As a long-term organizer, I think that's true for a bunch of reasons. So right now we're working with, oh, I'm sorry. I think I meant to type our thing to everyone. So right now we're working with, do you all know what a worker center is in Los Angeles? There's maybe about 10 worker centers, and they're somewhere in between labor unions and community organizations, and they focus on particular industries or particular sectors. So in Los Angeles, there's a car wash worker center. There's a garment worker center. There's the Filipino Worker Center, there's the Black Worker Center, there's a bunch of them, and they focus on industries that focus on exploiting working class people, and particularly immigrants, particularly people of color. And so they work to combat things like wage theft, to organize campaigns. The Garment Workers Center had like a 5-year campaign against Forever 21 in terms of their exploitation of sewing workers. Anyways, and so they are trying, they're in addition to fighting back against exploitation and making these industries accountable, they're interested in changing the industry, period. And they see co-ops, worker co-ops, as a way to show that people can make a living, that it's viable to not exploit people, and that they can have good jobs, okay? So they're looking at creating co-ops that they can replicate. So home care worker co-ops, daycare co-ops, mobile car wash co-ops, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a long ass approach to the answering Angela's question, but by doing that, the more of those there are, the idea is that the more the rest of the industry will have to step up, because they will be attracting folks who want to work in, who have the ability and the skills to work in the industry, but are sick of being treated like disposable diapers. Okay. Here's some other questions. So I'm curious if certain businesses lend themselves better to the co-op model than others. What is it like to join an existing co-op? How would the hiring process work? How would the process of integrating into an existing workspace look like? And I agree with Angela. These are such great questions. Okay, so first, are there certain businesses that lend themselves better to the co-op model than others? I think that any business can be cooperatively owned and run. Because what is a cooperative really? It's about restructuring it's restructuring two things. It's restructuring the relationship between labor and capital, meaning, this is a good definition of capitalist, because in business, whoever invests the most money has the most power. So if I invest $10,000 in a business and Angela invests $1,000, I am entitled to 10 times more of the profits than she is forever. And if the workers don't own any shares or anything like that, they get paid whatever we pay them. So in traditional business, capital hires labor. Okay, in co-ops, your capital is your labor. In worker co-ops, your capital is your labor. And so it's flipped. And so labor hires capital. The capital is put to the use to productive use by workers who create their own livelihoods and make decisions about that. So there are a couple of things that I would say, regardless of what kind of industry you're in, you know, it would be, you want people to have trade skill or the capacity to learn that trade, because you have to deliver to customers. Democracy will only get you so far. You're still in an economy. You need to have a business strategy that will ensure that you are going to be economically successful, because at the end of the day, you're a business, you're a democratic business, but you're still a business, okay? And people who are the members are counting on that business to support their families, right? Okay, so what it's like to join an existing co-op? How would the hiring process work? How would the process of integrating into an existing workspace look like? So the workers in a cooperative, in a worker cooperative, are worker owners. They're both workers and they're owners, okay? So when they're bringing a new person on board, it's a lot more like getting married than it is going on a date. So it's really, because this person could ultimately become a worker owner too. They would have the same vote as you. One of the main principles of any cooperative is that there's one worker, one vote. So like the example I was giving about the traditional businesses, there's nobody in a worker cooperative who can own more of the business than another person. And because this is about relationships between human beings, democracy is about relationship between human beings, everybody has just one vote. If no matter how long you've been there, et cetera, it might behoove you to listen to the wisdom of your colleagues who've been there longer or who might have been in this profession longer. But your vote is just as important as anybody else's as an owner. In fact, there's one of our a co-op that we like. It's a landscape co-op. There's a video about them, and one of the guys says, he says this really, this is one of LA Co-op Lab love this statement, that the way that it works is that it's horizontal democracy in the boardroom, and it's hierarchical in the field. And what we mean by that is that when you're making decisions about the business, when you're making decisions about policy or anything like that, everybody's vote is equal. When you're out in the field doing whatever you do, there might be hierarchy because some people know how to do stuff better than other people. So if you're an apprentice electrician, you don't get to choose whether you cut the yellow wire or the red wire. Someone's going to direct you to that, or you'll get electrocuted. So you could say that's hierarchical, but actually it's like everybody isn't equal in every single way. But as human beings, we are. And that's what the democracy in the boardroom is about. Okay, and so anyways, so the hiring process is usually something like this, that someone is brought on to do work with a very clear path to what ownership would be. And after they've been there for a certain period of time, so they're interviewed like everybody else, and after they've been there, they're depending on the rules of the particular co-op, they might be able to be a member right away, or they might have to be there for like 6 months so that everybody gets used to them and they get used to everybody. But it's very clear about what happens along the way. And then you're either invited to become a member, which you may or may not want to do. And with that is usually some kind of financial commitment. So to purchase a share. And a share could be anywhere from $25 to $2,500 or more, depending on the co-op. How people pay for it could be cash up front. It could be, you could have some places give you, a bunch of time to pay it off. And it's almost like the co-op is giving you a loan by doing payroll deductions so that you have your share paid for. And the share helps capitalize the co-op. There's different reasons that people actually have shares. And one is basically a sign of commitment and egalitarianism because everyone's share costs the same. The other one is in some cases, to actually help capitalize the cooperative. What would be helpful to me since I'm talking, if one of the people who is running this, if you could help me with the questions, like pose the questions to me so that I don't miss people's questions. Is that okay with you?
Sure, I can do that.
So that I don't have to do everything. Okay. So what would you like me to respond to next?
So we have a question from Andy, who would love to hear about some of the most common stumbling blocks in early forming of co-ops, as well as long-term plans and how to avoid or navigate those stumbling blocks.
Okay, there's many. So to me, the most important thing, so when we teach about startups, and even like with a conversion from a traditional business to a co-op, you want to make sure that the workers have the capacity to run the business as well. So there's a lot of similar education, but the number one thing about the number one thing, or the first thing, I think is to have a great team. Is to have a team that respects each other, have a team that has a collaborative spirit, have a team that shares the same values, have a team that's ready to throw down with what it takes to run a business, and that is in solidarity. To have a team that has enough diversity so that you don't miss a lot. So like if everybody's exactly the same and thinks exactly the same and has exactly the same background, has exactly the same personality, and we have some tools for sussing this out. And a lot of times you're starting with people start with friends that they have the most in common with, and so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because you've got a head start on the solidarity piece. But you can miss a lot of stuff if there's not enough, if everybody, I'll just give you an example, like if everybody has the same personality type, for example, like if everybody is so circumspect and has, that about you that it's almost impossible to make a decision because they're afraid that they're going to be wrong or something like that. And if everybody is personality is hell yeah, then you're going to be jumping off a lot of cliffs together and stuff like that. So it's good to have this balance of personalities. We shouldn't be afraid of that, so that's one thing. The other thing is so like, I said, like, it's really useful. You have to really have a business model that makes sense. That's assumptions are kind of like you're able to validate the assumptions behind it, behind your financial plan and stuff like that. But I can't remember what business smarty pants came up with this, but there's an expression that people who do business planning have. It's that no business plan survives its first customer. It's the reality that's going to hit you. And who expected COVID? Who expected, a stock market, Lehman Brothers, falling into the dirt and stuff like that, the financial crisis, things happen. So the purpose of a plan is to give you a solid footing from which you can do other dances, okay? And so so I would say another stumbling block is an inability to pivot when the world is telling you to do that, an inability to see that, local success stories. Well, we're working with a bunch of folks. Did someone say something? Oh, that was a baby. Okay, hold that thought, baby. Okay, so there's this one nice co-op. It's called Tree Yoga, the Tree Yoga. And it's a group of, the core group is 4 people of color who have been doing yoga education for quite a while, I guess since some of them from something like 2016 or something like that. And their co-op is also one of the few, they're located in South LA. They're one of the few that are able to certify yoga instructors, and they certify people of color yoga instructors. And it's like a very rare kind of contribution to creating capacity for a cadre of new people to be able to provide support for the healing and trauma of a racist culture, with the resources of a discipline that is really good for that. So they're fabulous. They've been doing classes even during COVID. The city hired them to do yoga classes in the parks. They were able to pivot quickly to do online classes. They're looking for a place now. We're hoping to be able to help them with capital, with an investment loan. And if you're interested, I could tell you more about.
I would love to share really quickly that I started taking Gilda's workshop online, the one that the Co-op Lab does. And it kind of gave me a really good idea of whether or not I was ready to go into business with my friends.
I remember.
And it was really, really helpful. And even if anyone is just like thinking about getting into business, their own business at all, as like a self-proprietor, it's such a helpful, well laid out educational model. I recommend it for anyone, even if you don't go out co-op or even if you don't start a business. This is like a good understanding of how to do that kind of cooperative work. It's really, really valuable. You really can't beat the price. So I just wanted to give a little plug for the Co-op Lab. It's really amazing work that they're doing because it's such a revolutionary act to have a worker co-op. It's such a revolutionary act to not just see people as employees and boss, but to really build something together. So I want to thank you again, Gilda, for all that you do.
So we actually did have 2 more questions in the chat for Gilda. And one was if there are any legislative blocks currently to successful co-op forming. Yeah, and are there any legislative blocks that we need to overcome in order to make them more prevalent and easy to start up?
I don't think there's legislative blocks to forming co-ops. I think there's a hell of a lot of missed opportunities. For example, let's take COVID. In Italy, there's something called the Macora Law. And I mean, of course, there's a different context and I won't get into all the history. Although if you go on our free Discover Worker Co-op class, you could learn more about Italy and the Macora Law. But the Macora Law in situations of unemployment, people are able to take their entire unemployment benefit, not just, week by week by week, but whatever is their benefit, like whatever thousands of dollars, to buy into a cooperative or to start a cooperative. Okay, now, how many people would have really, like people that called us in our office hours, would have really benefited from that opportunity from a system that they paid into? Okay, it's just like, so I think there's missed opportunities. I think there's lots of legislation that we could do. There's situations where, some banks, it's not legislation, but it's just because there are not lots of them in Los Angeles yet. They're unfamiliar with a lot of people use the limited liability corporation structure. And so the bank might make everybody come into the bank to get a bank account or something like that, which is really a hardship on, like, let's say 15 working people during, working hours, which are, banking hours are like pretty narrow working hours and stuff like that. So anyways, okay. There was,
I think Dr. Suzanne wanted to make a comment. So yeah, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi there. Well, first of all, I come from a background as a social ethicist, and to me, the worker co-op or collaborative is absolutely necessary until we have democracy in this country, and not just the hints of it. One of the benefits I would see is until we get Medicare for all, you buy group insurance. What is it? Many hands, light work. But so I have been hoping, and I'm so grateful to you, Gilda. I'll be in touch with you. But I on a personal for my nonprofit Greener Way Associates, I'm looking for someone who knows how to plant trees. And if they do, I'll put my, it's Suzanne at Greener Way Associates or admin at greenerwayassociates.org. But through that, I'm focusing on a way through Greener Way as a different venture. As a Greener Way as an incubator, but the venture would be to get the worker owned sustainable landscaping with the focus on trees, because I know where we can get grants to get these things going that would both help the environment and justice and worker and the whole 9 yards. So I'm eager to connect with you on the landscaping co-op you mentioned. And also I'm thinking if we have to incorporate, what about as a socially responsible corporation, a B corporation, or whatever it is. So to find all the legal loopholes, or whatever you want to call them, benefits that the workers would then be entitled to. I need to learn much more, and I'll be in touch with you. But my plea is to anybody out there who has planted fruit trees, knows how to plant them, knows how to sustain them, or even if you'd like to learn, because I have some people already in mind, I'd love to get together with you, and those who would like to form a co-op to be part of it. Hey, we need, what is it, all hands on deck to create more and more models of eco-friendly living that benefits all breathing beings, from humans to the most essential and elements of our food chain. So thank you, Gilda, for presenting.
You're welcome. Did you have a question, Marie?
Yeah, I do. Well, not a question, is a statement more, but a question too. I was wondering about salary structure within a co-op for different qualifications, for different positions. So just like you, because to me, I set up a consulting business about 2 years ago, just before the COVID hit, and that was, as I've done all my life, is worked with small businesses. And I have been fascinated and studied a lot of cooperatives from going back. I was fascinated when I found out, because I'm Italian of background, I found out that 80% of Northern Italy are co-ops of all types.
Yeah,
and
1 out of every 3 people.
And now I'm seeing that there's a sense of urgency in this country to actually bring about more equality and justice, but not as a giveaways, but to give people hope and promise of being able to take care of themselves. And that is my work in my old age. And so I'm particularly interested, and I will be contacting you to see if I could become a student so that I can actually go out, because my background has been in sales and marketing in the trenches. And I want to be out there promoting this idea. I do have this game, Cooperatively. And I thought I ordered a new one so I could have a couple of games going and start a meetup where I can start to show business people how a co-op works, to encourage, one more thing. So I'm open for suggestions on how to promote this.
I do have a suggestion for Cooperative. So the people in Tessa, they're like, we've talked and stuff like that. So they were nice enough some years ago to give me all of their, basic artwork. And what I did was blow up Cooperative really big. It's like on kind of a plastic kind of sheet and stuff like that as the game board. I have a giant, like this big, like you would have for like kindergarten or something like that, like a hourglass timer. We have everything's big. We have big dice, like dice that look like this, and it's just more fun. So you can have, and so what we used it early on just to teach people what a cooperative was. And then it's, it's low stakes. To me, it's like a very low stake way of, you're playing business and stuff like that. And we would have, in fact, on our website, you'll see a picture of some people, like young people and older people, like doing something together, but they're playing Cooperative. They're playing giant Cooperative. So I'll lend it to you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I love that.
What you can do is you can have more people play by having each character in the game, there's like, I don't know, 8 characters in the game or something like that.
Yeah.
And but you could have like 3 people be one character, and so then you have another level of people having to negotiate with each other, so they're one character, and so they have to make a decision, you know. And so like, and the game has stuff like that have to do with decisions that you, it's like this is what democracy looks like, okay,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah, I think it's,
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
we were trying to, we had this when we broke up into 2 groups. One group was really like they just took it and they ran with it, and the other one was like it was like a kind of caricature of the Big Bang Theory. They took everything really seriously, and it was taking them really forever to come up with what their business was that they were going to do. And so I told them, well, you know, you don't have to take this so seriously, because in our first game that we played, the business that we were working on was, oh, it was a retirement home for really old cartoon characters. Anyway, you could do any, you know what I mean? It's a game, you know, because what you're really getting to is the relationships and the dynamics, and the relationships and dynamics of democratic decision making about things that might affect some people more than other people. And so it gets you deeply into the questions of what is solidarity.
And you know, one of the things I discovered, I thought that we needed to put more people in their own business. What I discovered is that the first year in business, 20% of those businesses will not exist to the second year. In 5 years, only 50 will survive. And in 10 years, only 20 will survive. And the reality is that, yes, they are the backbone of this country. And yes, they do employ more people, and they produce more income in this country than even corporate America for the people. And yes, you can earn more money. So it's like, and when I talk to people about a co-op, 9 out of 10 people do not know what the heck it is, other than a supermarket.
I don't know what it is, but I would take those numbers. Those numbers come out all the time. I'm not saying they are empirically correct. However, you have to marry those numbers to what is an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur, like any of them, Steve Jobs, any of them, they've gone through failures, and then they go.
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
Like, even the successful co-ops that I've worked with, some of them say, oh, well, you know, the first co-op we did failed. But that's how we learn all the things. If they're motivated, they're going to make it work.
And that is part of a program that I have in mind, is teach survival skills, because that's how I survived, working from the time I was 16 years old, and able to come up with solutions and strategies to move a business forward. And those are things that we can learn, how to just say, okay, well, that game is over, let's go play another one. And that is the way we have to look at life. And so, yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad you did this, because it's really inspiring to me, and very helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so my question was, how is the salary structured? Is everybody get paid the same, or does it according to what your skills are?
It really depends. So what is important, and like any other business, it's important that everybody knows what the deal is. Okay. So different cooperatives have different ideas about what's fair. You know, it's like one, there's in this, and if you want to talk about like what is fair for pay, there's a lot of versions of what is fair for pay. So everybody could get paid the same, but now people have different needs and people have different experiences. Or you can just say, but this place would fall apart without that person, and this, you know, they don't have a college degree and this person has a college degree. I don't really care, because I don't want to lose this person. We should all get paid the same. That's fair. Another, you know, some people get, you know, think productivity is, you know, how productive are you? How much, you know, are you contributing? You know, what's that's fair for pay? You know, there's so many ways to talk about, you know, some people think merit, you know, like it does matter if you have a college degree or if or seniority. it does matter if you've been doing this for 10 years, et cetera, or not. And I know co-ops that are on every every point on that spectrum of a discussion about what's fair. And the problem in traditional businesses is that, or in the economy in general, is that we don't talk about that. We don't have those discussions and debates, and that only a few people get to decide what's fair, or fairness isn't actually even an issue, because what's fair is I put a whole lot of money into this, and so you got to say what I say do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Manuel, you can go.
Dr. Suzanne, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. I don't know if it's still valid because I read this years ago, but Southwest Airlines was kind of modeling, I don't know if it's really worker owned, but fair profits. So, a pilot gets paid a pilot's wage and a flight attendant their wage, but then there was some, from
Was
what I had.
ESOP and ESOP and employee stock ownership plan?
Yeah, can you comment on that, Gilda, and do you consider that
Yeah,
a
so actually, employee stock ownership plans are similar in some ways to co-ops, and they're really different in another way too. So there's no requirement that they be democratic, but they have a profit sharing system that is actually based in retirement plans. And so the ESOP kind of structure lives in, I forget what ERISA stands for, but it's the retirement laws of this country. And it lives kind of in that system, and people get a share of company profits and then benefit through their retirement on it. And so ESOPs work better for really big companies, for bigger companies. And one reason is because it's not inexpensive. The legal costs of forming an ESOP are kind of stiff. But anyways, there's ESOPs that are very democratic, that in addition to having this financial profit sharing, also have a participatory ambiance and system. And there's ones that aren't. Early on, I was working, I guess it was in the 90s, with two industrial bakeries that were ESOPs, and they came to us. It was a different version of us, but they came to us because their companies were not democratic, and they just brought us all this stuff. And we spent about a year working with the members, the workers, organizing the material that they had given us and coming up with a strategy. Some of these are really run by management companies or money management companies and stuff like that. And a lot of them are not, that are very, more democratically inclined. And so so they never had any workers on their board. They never, they didn't understand how decisions were made and stuff like that. And through this process, we actually, and their organizing and our support, that was actually changed. And so
if I don't, I'm on my way over. Okay.
Out to my house.
It's cute.
We had a question about someone wanted to hear more about the minority yoga co-op, tree yoga.
Tree yoga. Mm-hmm. They are What do you want to know?
Hi, Gilda. Jahan here. I'm the one who asked the question. It was just your time was up and you were
Oh, I see.
mid-sentence.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. No, they're a co-op. They work together. We met them in our office hours. We've worked with them. We're trying to develop a loan for them. They are, I think they're a real asset to Los Angeles. They were unusual case where the yoga co-op had been, the yoga company had been around as a nonprofit, as the founder's idea of being able to have a yoga presence in South Los Angeles. They were somewhere, in fact, I remember I think they were like on Broadway and 83rd or something like that. I remember driving up the street and I saw it and I stopped my car because I was so surprised, because I had never seen a place like that in South LA. And the owner actually ended up, instead of selling the business, which was a nonprofit, to the core workers and instructors, actually gave it to them. And so they've been running it great. And, and then it's also like conversions are great, because if someone's not billing because the thing isn't working, but conversions are great because the people who've been doing the work oftentimes just really know their business. They have relationships and stuff like that. And and so in this particular case, it was golden, so I hope we can, there, you got their story. There it is on the chat.
Thank you so much, Angela. And thank you, Gilda.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today. Yeah, this was a really wonderful time, and thank you especially to Gilda for creating all this space for like such rich knowledge about worker co-ops. I was just talking about yoga and specifically like wanting a people of color led yoga thing today. So this was a really amazing find.
Oh, great. Yes, that was their intention, like creating a safe and supportive space, right? For people who oftentimes don't feel like that when they're in some of these other settings.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, everyone. Again, please email us, get in touch with us if you have any comments or questions. And we always appreciate like getting to talk with all of you. Yes, we will send out the recording.
Great.
Do we have your email? So if you want a recording link, please drop your email in the chat and I will make sure that it gets to you. But otherwise, I will vibe us out.
Okay, have a great day, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Great day. Yes.
Just close it.
Angela, I just did you get my email, the hello@jahansicily for the recording link?
I did, yes.
Okay, thank you so much for hosting this. I really appreciate it. This was amazing. I was crying.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, looking forward to you being at some of our other events and being friends and staying in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
You too. Take care, everyone.